Right, let's take a look at these setups, okay? So, got these lines on here, okay? So, setup-wise for me, you're not going to see much difference here, okay? We'll talk about more pressure on your left side, getting the left shoulder a little bit lower, so they're leveled off, okay? But these two lines here will showcase where your club. This is a sort of 40-yard shot. Look how short the backswing is there, and the club already is whipped inside. Now, this was more so because you weren't turning before. If we put that shoulder back to where it started, kind of, to start there. So if we put your shoulder back here, now you're turning the body a little bit here. If we take the golf club and move it from there to there, it's now not too bad. But because you were used to just moving your arms here, the club was okay. Now you're turning, that club would get a bit whipped inside because you're not using your wrists and your hands correctly. So from this position now, when the club's too far behind, it's going to come back on this sort of shallow angle into the golf ball, hit the ground behind the ball, or then you sort of try and lean back on it, drop that right shoulder under, and then your knees start chasing after it. Probably end up in thinning a golf ball across the green, okay? So the sensation is, I say, more on the left side. Look at the difference in this takeaway now. So you turn your torso still nicely. Look at the club face there now. You see that club has basically bang on your hands there, okay? And look at the difference in the club when it goes back. How long that backswing is for you. This is still a 40-yard shot, 50-yard shot, yeah? So swinging the golf club back up here now. Club's going to be coming back down. Gravity now, we're sending it back down this way. Well, gravity from there is going to drop it a long way behind you, yeah? So the club can now start coming back down nice on the golf ball. Now we can turn to the golf ball nicely. And just the general rhythm of the swing, if we look at the actual swings in their entirety, this one, very kind of like trying to help it with the follow through. Not much smoothness to that. This one just looked like you just have a nice sort of afternoon stroll, just like up she goes and down and just flowing the club over your left shoulder, just very almost lethargic, just sort of not taking a lot of effort into this shot, but allowing the body to rotate, letting the wrist hinge. So this movement here now is going to be the key thing for your pitching, because this angle here now is going to help you hit the ground, yeah? That club going up, it's going to come down. If you were stood here now and said, okay, hinge the wrist up, the way you'd hinge the wrist is pushing down with that pad of your thumb, hinge the wrist up, yeah? So that sort of hinging of the wrist brings the club up in the air and brings the golf club back down again. So then at least hitting the ground now is kind of a given. That's the important thing. From this position here before, hitting the ground was kind of, you had to be a perfect lie and execute the shot spot on, which when you're low in confidence and the lies aren't always going to be good, not very high likely that's going to happen, is it? Okay, so from this position here, short and a bit jerky again, you're trying to add a lot of speed. That's only going to give you a 20-yard shot at most. If you're trying to go 40 or 50, suddenly now you're trying to really put the speed back into that golf club. You're going to struggle to get any kind of cleanliness of strike. So getting that club up in the air a bit more, hinging the wrist up, body can kind of still rotate. Still quite a lot of rotation there for what looks like a long shot, but we saw the ball up in the air and landed about 45, 50 yards out, okay? And you watch that length of swing, you think, God, it's only like 100 yards for me. But now you're swinging it with the correct angles, softer strike, the speed of swing's a lot smoother. That club can work up and down that shaft line nicely. Much more consistent strike, as we saw. So it's much better. So that was the short game now. So the short game in terms of the difference between long and short. Short game is more left shoulder low, left-sided, hinging up. Long game is more right-sided low, rotating, If when you do this with a long game, that ball's going to go left and just you get that sort of curvature that way, okay? And I think when you're playing long shots, if you saw a golf ball doing that, you would just swing your arms in that direction, So now we start seeing most of the shots now are just sort of starting here and going this way. Your brain's going to start thinking, well, hang on a second, I can start swinging it now towards target, hit the ball where you want to go, But that's going to be rewired the same way your brain was kind of fixing the fault. It's now having to unfix that fault, but more so with feel rather than too much technique. What I'd say is just make sure your body's rotating, which you can do from a better setup. Obviously, the back limits how much you can do, but if you're setting up with the long game more in that right side tilted, you can turn it a little bit easier. If you're like this, going to struggle.
Yeah.
Okay, mate, makes sense?
Yeah.
Very good. Good man.